Hey guys, another quick tutorial. So this time I want to cover some camera things. In the starter project, you probably saw under this blueprint, I have this thing that is a editor utility widget that I had made a while back. It's more of a tech artist tool that I'm curious to see if you guys want to turn into more of an official tool. It's a little chunky and big, I admit for sure. But let me show you what it does. It helped me in my workflow of things. So I had a little scene like this that I had set up just to kind of be a small diorama. And often, if you have multiple cameras like this, especially doing product visi like things, you may kind of pilot the cameras quite a bit and switch. So I built a thing in here that would allow you to kind of cycle through all the cameras and pilot them. So you can quickly, change and get different views. When you have the camera selected, it will also allow you to change the aspect ratio. So if you're doing Instagram post or something like that, you can also change the field of view here to some presets that I built. And then depth of field. So, changing these. So if I did a 135, piloted really far in and, looked at some of this stuff, a lot of shallow depth of field there. The other thing that I did with this was I created something that I called a depth of field null. So if I delete this out for a second, I'm going to go ahead and click this depth of field target, and that will drop a null in the world there, and we can use this to autofocus. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and click the autofocus button. And what that did is it made the little noise. Whatever's right in the center of the screen there, it's going to focus on. So oftentimes you go to autofocus and boom, it will kind of put it there. You can do this with several clicks in Unreal. I'd have to go to the camera, which we did change. Now you can click on the camera and that will highlight the selected one. And what I'm doing is I'm changing this method from manual to tracking, and I'm populating the depth of field target. And I'm actually doing this for all of the cameras. So across the scene, I can put that depth of field point for every camera. So this is really helpful if you were building up some kind of little scene but needed to keep that in focus. So maybe this isn't the best. I'm going to go back to that camera and I'm going to change it back to 16:9 and you can kind of see. So yeah, the autofocus part for me was really powerful. I'd be interested to get your guys' feedback and see if that's something that you would want to see built more into some of the camera stuff. And some of these presets, we can make them smaller and restyle the panel to make it much better, but let me know what you think. Also, before this release, you could see if I move the camera, what happens a lot of times is you go to click on a camera and you accidentally miss and then you move. So we put similar to Maya, if you hit the bracket keys, you can undo the camera now forward and backward. So pro tip there, you can now undo the camera. That's what this store and restore was doing. So thank George for putting that into the engine for us. The other thing, if I turn off the animators here, I have these little doodads kind of animating. If I click in here and I hit Control M, that will mute all the animation. I had a button to turn on path tracing. So with one button click, you could set up some path traced elements. So this works really well with that kind of thing. If we were getting this, and I'm going to go autofocus and put that null, you can see that that null is now there. And we have worked on a full path traced image. So I know everyone's coming at motion graphics from different angles. So just trying to see if this is good for you guys and powerful. Another thing I showed others in the past was that you can set on this surface snapping. So if I turn off path tracing, you can drag this around and it will actually snap that depth of field target to the geometry. So if we take this guy and just duplicate some back here, build up, small scene that we can get more depth with. Having this depth of field null here, you can see it's almost like a rack focus as I drag it back and forth. So I prefer using this kind of method versus going into the actual camera and trying to find where that's located. The other thing that I've done in the past with these is I take this depth of field null and I put it inside the 35mm like this. And now if I want, this works a bit more like, I would be piloting this around, and let's say it's kind of traveling with the camera, but it's out in a certain distance. So if we zero the out, then we can just move it away from us in the positive direction like this. And now you can see it's almost like moving in the distance from camera. We can switch our space here from, I'm gonna turn off surface snapping, and this is cycling between world space. So if I do that with one control there, I can take this depth of field and just kind of move it. Now we can use the remote control as well. If we wanted to, we could just expose this X value and come to that remote control. And now this is kind of like a global, like, offset. So sometimes it's nice to, but you can see, like, if I move the camera, it's moving with the camera. So sometimes, it's nice to kind of drop it in there for a second, target it up, and then undrop it and unparent it. That's about the same as going into the actual camera and toggling on the debug focus plane here. So if we toggle that guy on, you can see. Now another pro tip is that we can show some of these things in the, if we add this to the favorites, we can actually show some of these things inside of the viewport. So it's going to take me a second to see this, but hang on. Well, I wasn't able to find it at the moment. I'll find another video for you guys, but a few more quick tips. So on this panel, I also put a couple things in here where if we select a bunch of actors, I can, I like to randomly just change the rotation on it to get some variation. So if I came here, let me again kind of cycle through the cameras, see what I got. So let me take all of those, all these kind of guys here, and to randomize the design a little bit, you can randomize that rotation. So each time you click on that, it'll give you a random. The same thing that's kind of nice for these is, like, if you have a whole bunch of things that were along the floor plane, or you wanted to be able to, like, just set a bunch of rotations, like I copied a bunch of those, then we can also do this random position, and those will, kind of incrementally randomly move within a certain range. So again, that's helpful for some things. I initially had like a reset position, scale, and rotation as well. We've put those into, if I go into here and take one of these elements, you can see. So we've put those into here where you can reset the position. In the same, if you do the rotation or scale, you can see these, when we click on it, we'll reset those rotations. So that's, super helpful for that kind of stuff. Things I put in here too was like clean up the world outliner. What that did was, in the normal world outliner, adds cameras, lights, meshes, volumes, that type of thing. So our motion design outliner is different. We're not having folders in there for now, but that's what that did. And then, grouping actors, we have better control inside of that now that inside of the outliner, if I go ahead and delete some of these items, you can see that, let me just pull one out really quick and then delete everything else. So a couple nice things is that when we delete, it basically deletes everything, so that it doesn't just delete the null or parent. But if we want to group, I can go ahead and duplicate this a bunch of times, and I can select those three, and I can hit Control G and just group those, and that will put a null right above it. And then when I copy, it's going to copy all of those too. So super quick to be able to do that. Like I said, add some like random rotation element to it. Change this to world, move this over here, set this guy here. You can middle mouse click and that will select all the children, and then a random rotation. I think it also did the parent, which I wasn't wanting to do, but if you need to zero that out, you can zero that out. So again, go ahead and kind of click those random rotations. So stuff like this is really helpful for just speed boosts and being able to work inside the scene really quickly. Yeah, if there's any other things you want to know on tips or where we should or could take this as more of a proper tool, let me know. But I just wanted to get it in front of you guys and see what you think. Okay, thanks.